And because we see you a lot, I feel like I really know you. So I know what's coming. And I want to, just before we start just taking the victory lap about how prices are down and we've done this and we've done that and we've done all these other things, can we just start with the conceding that a lot of it has been done on the demand side, Amos, and some of it's been done on the supply side with the SPR, but people argue whether that was a good move or not. A lot of it maybe is due to the zero COVID policy in China, the Fed's raising rates, trying to slow down the economy. On the supply side, maybe not as much.
Well, I think there's certainly been some effect in the market on China. But remember that while we have a reduction in demand from China, we've also had a reduction of supply announced by more significant volume by Saudi Arabia. So I think the supply side has made a difference here. I think it's very hard to argue against the, I know you said some people criticize, it's very difficult for me to understand criticism of 180 million barrels of the release. Can you just imagine the last few months if we had reduced a consistent million barrels a day? I mean, it's just impossible to imagine that the prices today would be as lower than they were and as low as they are now. And by the way, they're up today. They've been up the last few days. So we like the trajectory of prices going down. President wanted to see more production, and most importantly, wanted to see more going into inventory, and we started seeing some of that, of companies putting a little bit more into inventory. So we're glad to see that. We still need to see more of it, though.
That's a lot to unpack there too. We'll try to do it. Part of, I guess, the criticism from certain circles, Amos, is that now we're talking to Chevron in Venezuela about increasing the supply there, but still not. And I know you're going to say that we like the oil companies, we want them to produce. They've got 9,000 permits. I've heard it all so much, but it was 10 days ago the president again said, President Biden, maybe you try to talk him out of it. I don't know what you do when he says it, but when he says we're going to end drilling domestically, that causes the major oil producers to not want to invest long term. How can you give me, you say we like them, we want them to produce. Give me a number on how long. Do you want them to do it for 5 more years, for 10 more years? How long will we need these major oil producers to keep drilling? What does he mean we're going to end drilling? When?
Well, eventually we're going to be phasing out the use of oil.
What is eventually? What's eventually? Because you're not going to want to invest any money in doing this if it's 2 or 3 years from now, or even 5 years almost.
So I don't think we're talking about 2-3 years. We're talking about a little longer than that. And as you know well, the production in the United States, onshore production in the United States, is short cycle, relatively short cycle production. There can be investments, and recovery of those investments happens at a much shorter cycle than offshore, deep water, and those kinds of investments that are more expensive and take significantly more time to recover. So we understand that the economy in the United States and around the world is going to be using oil for several more years as we transition. And look at our own goals. Our goal has been to have 50% of new car sales by 2030 be electric vehicles. That tells you that how much longer we still see oil in the market. And that's just 50% of new car sales. By 2035, we're probably going to go, even if we go to 100% of oil, new car sales being electric, you still have the entire fleet there. And you know that we make other things from oil as well.
Right.
So we want to have
the grid. We need to power the grid with hydrocarbons. Several more years, almost it's probably going to be several more decades, probably, that you would acknowledge that we're probably going to be using hydrocarbons in some form.
I'm very grateful we don't power our grid with oil. So let's separate out the oil and gas. Okay. But on oil side, I think that we're going to see we're still going to have demand for the next several years. Enough time to allow oil companies to increase production so that we can have a repowering of the American economy, which is what we're really looking at, and have the lower prices to consumers that we've been wanting to see all along. You know that we're now at around $3.50 on average, and most Americans are seeing below $3 for gasoline, so that's a good thing too. we want to see that continue.